ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Keshwari Mataji, would you like to start reading?
Okay, Mataji, just a second.
I think this one is done. They basically are trying to find this another replacement for carrying the palanquin of Maharaj Rahugana, and then they found Jadabharata. And then somebody said, "Hey, he's deaf and dumb. Leave him alone." So that's where we stopped. Okay, here. Yeah.
Okay. The guard lowered his stick and grabbed Bharata by the arm. Dumb? That's fine. You have firm limbs, oxen and asses are dumb too, but they can carry heavy loads. You are just what we need. Come along, you. He dragged the unresisting Bharata to the palanquin and motioned for him to grab the handle. The courier then called out on the count of three. Sorry, the courtier then called out on the count of three. Lift the palanquin, 1, 2, 3. A guard poked Bharata and motioned for him to lift. Come on, pick it up. As the procession moved off, Bharata kept his eyes fixed on the grounds. Ants scurried here and there. Bharata kept stepping around them because of his erratic pace and palanquin lurched from side to side. Rahugana leaned out and barked, "Why are you men carrying the palanquin unevenly? You better shape up or else."
Haha.
The three seasoned palanquin carriers looked fearfully at each other. One said to the other, "He will surely have us severely beaten if this continues." Another said, "One of us has to speak up and tell him what's going on." "Go on then," said the third. "You tell him." "Your Majesty," said the second palanquin carrier, "please be merciful. We are not at all negligent in discharging our duties. We have faithfully carried your palanquin for a long time, just as you desire. This new man, however, is not working at a steady pace. We cannot do our service properly with him." Rahugana glared at Bharata. "So this is all your fault, is it?" One guard nudged the other. "He is in it for it now. The king will kill him." The other guard whispered, "I am sure he will give him a chance. The king is adept at politics and very experienced. Let's see how he deals with crazy fellow." "I wouldn't want to be in his shoes," whispered the first guard under his breath. "Kings are dangerous like serpents. Anger is their second nature." They both glanced sympathetically at the unfortunate Bharata, who seemed oblivious to the problem he faced. Rahaguna's mouth twisted into a tight smile, and he carried out, "How troublesome this must be for you, my dear brother. You look so tired because you have been carrying this palanquin alone for a long time and for a long distance." The guards and courtier, realizing the king was humiliating Bharata, laughed loudly. Rahugana leaned out of the palanquin and poked Bharata in the chest, arms, and legs with the end of his sheathed sword. "Besides, I can see you are old and not very strong or stout." Passers-by stopped to see what was going on. They pointed at Bharata and joined in the laughter. Rahugana's tone was sarcastic. "Are you fellow carriers not cooperating? Are your fellow carriers not cooperating with you?" Bharata said nothing. Why should he be disturbed? The king was merely insulting his body. The soul within was neither fat, lean, strong, nor weak. It had nothing to do with the material body's combination of the five gross and three subtle elements. The courtier informed Rahugana that Bharat was dumb, and the king shouted, "Carry on, do it properly. This time you will be sorry." Bharat bent over and lifted the palanquin along with the other couriers. As before, he kept his gaze focused on the ground before him and carefully avoided stepping on any ants. The palanquin wobbled precariously. Rahuguna's crown slipped over his face and he exploded with rage. "You fool! What are you doing? Have you no sense? Are you dead, although appearing alive?" He leaned over the side of the palanquin and gazed at Bharat. Do you not know that I am your master? How dare you disregard my order? For this disobedience I shall punish you, just as Yamraj, the Lord of Death, punishes the sinful. I shall have you beaten to within an inch of your life. He shoved Bharata away from the palanquin and continued to rail incoherently. Bharata stumbled backwards, remembering the fate of the dacoits who had tried to kill him. He prayed to Krishna to forgive the king. Influenced by passion and ignorance, del- the deluded fellow.
Okay, and if anybody has any questions, you just can unmute and say, but it's very interesting. Go on.
The deluded fellow thought himself a monarch. Although he considered himself learned, he could not recognize Krishna's devotee, Bharata. He could not recognize Krishna's devotee. Bharata looked at the red faced king. He felt compassion and wanted to uplift him. It was the duty of Lord's devotee to show kindness to all living beings. He smiled and said, "My dear king, noble hero, all you have sarcastically said is correct. There is no reason for me to be tired, nor have I carried this palanquin a long way. Your reprimand is the truth, for it is only my body which carries the palanquin, not me. I have nothing to do with the body. You say I am neither stout nor strong. Only a person who does not know the distinction between body and soul would speak in this way. The body may be fat or thin, but no learned man would say things about the spirit soul, the actual person. The soul is neither fat nor skinny. Your statement,
It's like what a transformation, no? The deaf and dumb person sitting there, not wanting to learn, suddenly opening his mouth and wisdom is flowing through this guy.
yeah, that I am not a very that I am not very stout and therefore is correct. And since my body is carrying this palanquin, there is no trouble for me, the soul. Rahugana scowled. You dare answer me back? Do you lack the sense to fear me, your king? Bharat held the king's gaze with no sign of fear. Stoutness, leanness, physical and mental distress, fear, dissension, material desire, old age, sleep, material attachment, anger, lamentation, illusion, and false ego are all external to the soul. They affect one in material consciousness, but they do not exist for me. I am therefore none of the things you mention. Everyone present glanced anxiously at Rahugana. Bharata alone remained peaceful. He said, "My dear king, you accused me of being dead, although breathing. This is mistaken. Unless you think we are the bodies we inhabit, in which case everyone, including you, are dead. Although Breathing for intrinsic to all material bodies is a beginning and an end and an end death. You are also incorrect in thinking you are the king, my master, and thus entitled to order me. All such designations are ephemeral. Today, you are a king and I am your servant. But tomorrow, our positions may change. I, the master, and you, the servant. These designations are not who we really are, but temporary circumstances created by our past karmas. Rahugana Ras. As long as I am the king, I am your master. Bharata said, this is just a temporary differentiation between us, arising from social convention. Who is truly a master and who is a servant? The real master is material nature, which obliges us to accept different roles. If you think you are master and I,
Okay, so let's pause here. Oh, Krishna Govinda, these things are like sharp swords, right? Because if we look deeper into our own lives and our own priorities, we can see that these points are very relevant to us. Who is the mother, who is the child, sometimes, right? Or who is the husband, who is the wife. And even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, at who's the father, who's the son comes up. Sometimes, who is the student, who is the teacher. Sometimes we learn from each other, right? I mean, not sometimes, all the time. Even Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj used to say he used to learn from his father how not to be, what not to do. So, to think that I am master or I have entitlement. These are the illusions of this world. When we did this yagya at our place, one of the Nrsingadev's faces and one of the forms of Nrsingadev was the one who was removing this illusions of, and then it was so amazing when my astrology guru was speaking about that form of Nrsingadev and that particular thing that he rules. And he was saying that false sense of identity, that false sense of ownership, which actually keeps us, drags us down and keeps us stuck without growing. And this particular form of Nrsingadev, Chidda Chidrahi, that mantras are amazing. So it destroys that false sense of identity so that we can actually find that true sense of identity and become fully, like become us. And because so many obstacles are there to be really truly us, so many fears, so many false identifications. So that was actually one of my favorite Nrsingadev face. Ashtamuka Ganda Berunda Narsimha. So 8-faced Nrsingadev. So one of that was this, that he destroys that moha and falsities of falsities, different kinds and varieties of falsities. And yeah, mother child also, as a child is growing up, sometimes if we think more in terms of superiority, this is my child and the child should listen to me, should do things because I want, or is the intention deeper and really we're trying to facilitate the soul's growth? Because sometimes these souls come to us, they're not our children. Our children are not our children. They have their own minds, they have their own karma, they have their own path, they have their own destiny. Sometimes all we need to do is get out of the way, especially after a certain age. When they're young and small and dependent, yes, of course, for everything, food and clothing and shelter, everything, we are giving them that shelter. But after a certain point, they are who they are, and we are just fellow travelers, fellow travelers in this journey of life. We shouldn't get grasped. We shouldn't get grasped. Graha in astrology also. Graha means planet, literally. And also graha, the meaning of graha means something that seizes you and holds you. So these planetary influences sometimes seizes us and holds us as if, oh, this is my work, this is my home, this is my country, this is my child. But these are all actually seizes, holds, but then of course, one point, let's go also. So much identification drama we have in our lives. false identification drama. True identification is Jiver Swarup Hoy Nitya Krishna Nitya Das. That's the truth. True identity means I am eternal servant of Krishna. And also Chaitanyera Dasamohi, Chaitanyera Das, Chaitanyera Dasamohi, Tar Dasira Das. So that's our identity that we are working towards, which gives us true fulfillment. That I am the servant of Lord Chaitanya and the servant of the servant of the servant of Lord Chaitanya. And this is the true identity, because we feel safe there. It's not self-will anymore. It becomes Lord Chaitanya's will. Lord Chaitanya who came to revive sleeping souls, wake up the sleeping soul, Jeev Jago, Gaura Chandra Bole. So Lord Chaitanya came to wake us up to our real sense of identity, so we don't get lost in this material world and then, lose our connection. When we lose our Wi-Fi connection, how much struggle is there? Imagine losing the connection with Krishna. Right. All right. Okay. Who else likes to read? I can't see who's in the room, but let me check. Anybody? Just unmute and start reading. Whoever is. I was just thinking of Komal and she's here. Komal Mataja was just thinking.
Gee, I'm on my phone. I won't be able to read. I'm so sorry.
I was just saying that I don't know how much you heard, but I was thinking of our conversations earlier about identity and children and all. So I was thinking, I don't know if Kamal Mataji is there, and I just see you. Okay, for reading anybody else, please take over. Just unmute and start reading.
Your servant order me. What can I do for you? Rahugana stared at Bharata with his mouth agape. Who are these men? He looked like a mad vagabond, but he spoke like a philosopher. In a low voice, he said, Who are you? They called you Jar Bharata, but you do not seem very dumb to me. Bharata said, Really? Do you not remember calling me a rascal, a dull, crazy fellow? How just a moment ago you threatened to beat me. Bharata smiled at the bemused monarch. I am a self-realized soul, my dear king. Rahugana's handsome features registered disbelief. Self-realized soul? You look like a madman. If I am insane, what will you gain by beating me? It would be like beating a dead horse. There will be no effect. Punishment is not the cure for madness.
Interesting.
People in the crowd criticized the king and praised Bharata. One said, Why is the king so harshly chastising this innocent person? Another said, This man, Bharata, must be a great yogi. See how peaceful and tolerant he is. Yet another man said, Yes, and he speaks wisely. Others in the crowd whispered to each other, He seems to be completely free from the bodily concept of life. True, said his friend. He has the natural humility of Krishna's saintly devotees. As they spoke, Bharata bent over and picked up the palanquin by its handle as before. There was no point becoming angry with Rahugana. He was bewildered by false ego and simply an instrument of Bharata's past misdeeds. By carrying the king, he was destroying those sinful reactions. Rahugana sank back in his seat, unsure what to make of Bharata. He was traveling to Kapila ashram, hoping to hear sages discuss Kapila's philosophy of the absolute truth. Such discussions had the power to destroy all suffering. Remarkably, this man's words echoed Kapila's teachings. Thinking himself the king, he had offended him. How foolish! Rahugana alighted from his palanquin and prostrated himself before Bharata. Kindly excuse me for insulting you. Rising to his feet, he dusted himself down and said, It seems you are a Brahmin, for you wear the sacred thread, yet you move among us acting as if mad. Tell me truthfully, who are you? Bharata looked down and said, Nothing. He had said enough to protect the king from committing a grave offense, but he had no desire to speak any further with a materialistic person. Rahugana examined him carefully. Are you a highly renowned saint, possibly Dattatreya, who taught you this knowledge you display? Whose disciple are you? Pray tell me where you live. Why are you come? Why have you come to this place? Are you on a mission to do us good? Please let me know who you are. My dear king, why so many questions? Let me tell you, good sir, even if King Indra hurled his thunderbolt at me, or Lord Shiva his trident, I would not be afraid. I do not even fear Yamaraja's staff, nor Kuvera's weapons. I am fearless in the face of the elements like fire, the scorching sun, moon, or wind. I am terrified of offending a Brahmin. Therefore, please tell me who you are.
No, this is like one thing is we want to know somebody, right? Meaning we want to go and make somebody interested in us. Another thing is when somebody else becomes interested to know us. That's what is happening with Rahugana here. All this time, he didn't care about proving himself. He didn't care about his image. He was so focused on his spiritual life and spiritual protection. And now it's like Rahugana has become very curious. Who's this person? He looks so dumb, but actually he's such a philosopher. What's going on here? Who are you? Please tell me. And then he's trying to like figure out. So it's like sometimes happens in our life. Somebody thinks, treat them like that, like that, like that. And then finally say, oh, who are you? That kind of thing. Okay, someone else likes to read so that Rasastali Mataji can prepare the affirmation.
I can read that.
I'm simply your palanquin carrier. Despite himself, Rahugana became impatient. Enough with trying to fool me. I know you must be a great yogi. Who else could have spoken such profound philosophy, so difficult to comprehend? Rahugana took a deep breath. Why was he always so short-tempered? He spoke more gently. My dear sir, please do not continue hiding your great spiritual knowledge. I see you do not associate with anyone. Is it that you want to stay fully absorbed in meditation on the Supreme Lord? If so, you are surely advanced in spiritual knowledge. Please tell me why you wander around as if dull-witted. Bharata remained silent. Rahugana looked down at him from the palanquin. Maybe he needed to be more conciliatory in his tone. He said, "Oh, saintly person, your words are quite in accord with Kapiladev's teaching on yoga. However, I am dull and not able to understand everything properly. Kindly remove my doubts. You appear to be a sage who has perfectly understood the yoga science. Surely you are here to give spiritual instruction. I accept you as a spiritual master. Therefore, please tell me what is the best refuge in this world." Still, Bharata said nothing. Rahugana lost his patience once more. "Answer me. Are you are are you not Kapiladev's representative?" He slapped his forehead again. Why did he find it so hard to speak gently? He was simply alienating the saint. He calmed himself and said, "I think you are acting deaf and dumb so that you can assess who is actually a human being, one interested in spiritual advancement. I suppose you do not want to waste."
Oh my God, this is so good. This is so good. There are 2 points here. One is sometimes we make mistakes. We may treat somebody in some way. We may be neglectful. I don't know. Something can happen, right? We are humans. We're flawed. But then the result of that is sometimes something beautiful actually gets revealed, and we, like for example, if Rahugana didn't, all those things didn't happen, he wouldn't come across him. He wouldn't go through the transformation. So sometimes Krishna makes us make a particular mistake. I mean, recently something also happened in my life. I lost my calm and I lost my temper on something, and I was feeling so bad. But then I thought, because of that, the travel, something and all came up. So that would not happen. if this didn't happen. So sometimes there is some higher power behind certain actions. Okay, that's one point. The second point is Rahugana, he's like not trying to see Krishna's hand, and he's trying to see a devotee's intention, right? We may not know why a person behaves in a certain way, but as he's trying to figure out, oh, you're trying to act like that because you don't want to waste time with people. Some people are just nonsense, right? They just waste your time. So you're trying to preserve your energy, conserve your energy for something spiritual. Yeah, okay. Let's read. You can read one more page and then we can waste your time. Okay, yeah. We can finish Taruni Radha.
Your time speaking to materialists like me, who being attached to family and worldly enjoyment cannot understand spiritual truths. Somehow or the other, we have met, and I am asking you to enlighten me. Please tell me, how can I make spiritual advancement? Still, Bharata said nothing. 1 second. Still, Bharata said nothing. Rahugana let out a long breath. Maybe, if he challenged his earlier statements, he could goad him to speak. Of course, it is possible. You know nothing, after all. You said some things I could not accept. He looked for Bharata's reaction, but there was none. Rahugana continued, you said that you are the soul, different from the body, and therefore not fatigued by bodily labor. I do not agree with that. In my experience, when my body feels tired, I, the soul, also feel tired. I disagree with you on another point as well. You said our...
Should we...
Next page.
Okay, we can end here. Okay, yeah.
Our relationship as master and servant is an illusion because it is temporary. Again, I cannot agree. This world and our relationships in it may be temporary, but they are still real. The king spotted a clay water pot laying discarded by the side of the street. He pointed to it and said, just like this clay pot, ultimately it is nothing but earth, but while it is a pot, we accept it as such. In the same way, although temporary designations like master and servant are not eternal, they are real for the time being. Rahugana stared pensively at the discarded clay pot. As he did so, he remembered an argument he had heard from his court Brahmins. He said, I can prove that contrary to your statements, the condition of the gross body affects not just the mind, but the soul as well. Rahugana tapped the pot with his foot. If I put milk and rice in this pot...
Okay, we can pause here for today. He's gonna say these analogies, which are very interesting. But I'm wondering, how do we complete this? Let's just see what's the next. Where does it go? Okay, it's this much. Let's finish this, okay? Because this, if we finish this chapter, it's good. Tomorrow I'll be on a journey, so we won't be able to read this. So, yeah, please finish this, Taruni Radha.
And place it above a fire, then although the rice and milk are not in direct contact with the fire, they still also get hot. Similarly, although the mind and the soul are not in direct contact with the external world because they are in the physical body, when the body feels pleasure or pain, they too feel it. This, my dear sir, is a proof that the body's physical condition affects the soul. Rahugana studied Bharata, who continued to hold the palanquin and stare impassively at the ground. The king would surely have more to say. Rahugana went on. You said other things I felt were wrong. You dismissed the relationship between the king and his subject as inconsequential because it is temporary. But that does not mean it is unimportant. The king is duty-bound to rule the citizens and punish those who disobey the laws. You said it is useless to punish a deaf and dumb. Person. I disagree. When the king forcefully obliges any of his citizens to do their work, he frees them from their past sinful reactions and benefits them. Bharata remained silent, showing no sign of agitation or pride. Rahugana realized he could not trick him into speaking. He stared at him curiously. Surely this enigmatic man was a genuine saint. Anxiety seized the king's breast. He had completely mishandled the situation and was simply compounding his original offense. He spoke again in consolatory tones. What you said confused me, but I'm sure you are a self-realized soul. Advanced transcendentalist, are compassionate to those in distress, and they desire everyone's good with no external consideration. Although I know you are bound, you are beyond duality and unaffected by either praise or blame.
So beautiful.
I have committed a grave offense towards you. Bharata's continued silence unnerved the king, and he dropped to his knees with folded palms. My lord, I beg you to show me compassion. I have insulted you. This will surely ruin me. Offending Krishna's devotee will destroy even Lord Shiva. Therefore, even though you are undisturbed by my offense, please show me mercy.
What does it mean? Offending Lord Krishna's devotees will destroy even Lord Shiva? My Lord, I beg you to show compassion. This will surely ruin me. Means if Shiva offends a devotee, he'll be destroyed also. Is it something like that? Don't understand the English. Yeah, probably, right? Even Lord Shiva should not offend a devotee. I guess that's what this sentence means. Any English experts? I'm supposing.
Yeah, that's right what you think. If Lord Shiva offends Krishna's devotee, then that will destroy Lord Shiva too. Exactly what you said.
Okay, great. So we finished chapter 10, and Bharat Maharaj is not still opening his mouth. So he's going to open his mouth soon. All right, so Rasasthali Mataji, affirmation, please.
Yes, yes. I meditate on the meaning of the holy names as I chant. Our acharyas have given us many meanings for the holy name, and each meaning contains deep emotions. Krishna, make me qualified to serve you. Krishna, bring my heart closer to you. Krishna, please accept me. Krishna, please purify me. Krishna, uplift me. So when we say, I meditate on the meanings, it means we are conscious on an emotional level of what the Mahamantra means. We don't chant in a blank, feelingless state. We chant while meditating on and feeling the meaning of the mantra. Sometimes when we chant, we text a little bit, maybe talk with someone, or perhaps get distracted by something. This affirmation is encouraging us to avoid such distractions. Meditating on the meaning of the holy name isn't possible if we chant and look at our phone, chant and talk to our friends, etc. I call this chant and be happy. But chanting Hare Krishna is not the same as chanting Hare Krishna. When we enter more deeply into the holy name, we align emotionally with the meanings of the name. For example, let's say someone is talking to us about something serious and we are just smiling. This is inappropriate because we are out of sync with the mood of the conversation. In the same way, if we are not connected to the meanings of the holy name, then we are out of alignment with the nature and frequency of the Mahamantra. The holy name's meanings are deep, profound, and emotional. But if we just mumble through the mantra, then we are likely not connecting properly with the holy names. To test yourselves, record your chanting for a few minutes. Don't try to perform for the recording. Just chant as you normally do. Then play back the recording and listen to your mood. What feeling is your chanting conveying? Devotion, boredom, excitement, botheration, apathy. This affirmation is especially useful when we feel disconnected from the vibration of the holy name because it helps us enter into the emotions contained in the various meanings of the mantra. To enter this mood, we can ask ourselves, why am I chanting? In other words, we check in while chanting and ask ourselves, what does this chanting mean? What am I trying to accomplish? What is the goal of japa? This will bring our consciousness and heart in alignment on an emotional level with the meanings of the holy names. Hare Krishna.
Jai Harina.